Are you serious? Are you serious? Grab a Bible and go to the book of Esther. I'll be reading chapters 6 and 7. But before I do, the Jewish day of Purim will be celebrated again on this 2014 to be in March the 16th, 2014. Now, it will actually begin at sunset of March the 15th and go through sunset of March 16th. Purim is a Jewish holiday observed on March 16th. It commemorates the deliverance of the Jewish people in the ancient Persian Empire from the destruction in wake of a plot by Haman. According to the book of Esther, in the Hebrew Bible, Haman, royal vizier to King Ahasuerus, presumed to be, of course, the king of Persia, planned to kill all the Jews in the empire. But his plans were foiled by Mordecai and his adopted daughter, Queen Esther. The day of deliverance became a day of feasting and rejoicing. I want to read to you, you need to read the whole book of Esther to get the full content. But let's read chapters 6 and 7 because it is very powerful and it shows you. And remember, John F. Kerry, our Secretary of State, was compared to Haman by all of the prominent rabbis in Israel last week in what they feel like his betrayal of Israel. Esther chapter 6, from the King James Version of the Bible. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the books of records of the Chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on King Ahasuerus. And the king said, "What honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this?" Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, "There is nothing done for him." And the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, "Behold, Haman standeth in the court." And the king said, "Let him come in." So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, "What shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor?" Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to honor more than to himself? And Haman answered the king, "For the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set up on his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most notable princes, that they may array the man with whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the streets of the city, and proclaim before him, Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor." Then the king said to Haman, "Make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken." Then took Haman and the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the streets of the city, and proclaimed before him, "Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor." And Mordecai came again to the king's gate. But Haman hastened to his house, mourning and having his head covered. And Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all of his friends everything that had befallen him. And then said his wise men and Zeresh, his wife, unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hastened to bring Haman unto the banquet that Queen Esther had prepared. Esther, chapter 7. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen. The king said again unto Esther, on this second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to half of the kingdom. Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and a bondwoman, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he? And where is he that does presume in his heart to do so? And Esther said, the adversary and the enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king arose from the banquet of wine in his wrath. He went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen. For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed thereon Esther was. Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in this house? And as the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And Harbonah, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman has made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him thereon. So they hanged Haman on the gallows, and he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. You better be very careful if you come against God's people in your heart, or you plot against the children of God. Whatever is your curse that you speak from your mouth will be rendered on you. And so, be very careful. During this peace agreement process, every person, whether you're involved in it, whether you have an opinion about it, or whether you despise the Jewish people, you better be very careful, or you will hang from your own gallows. I'm Pastor Paul Begley. There's Bible lessons to be learned. That's why you should love one another. Treat everyone with the kindness of the Lord. Wow. Purim, that we celebrate next month. We'll review this again.